Okay, so it has begun. I got myself a 275 gallon steel fuel oil tank here, a used one. It's got a little work that needs to be done with it, but I've already started. As you can see, I've cut these old fittings out of it, and I've had to cut out a rusted spot down here. So I've got a long way to go with it yet, but we're on it. So now I've taken this angle grinder and I've cut the top seam for the top hatch of the smoker here. And my next move is to get my welder, and I'm going to plug up these holes. I got to cut some plugs, and I'm also going to take some band steel, or 1.5 inch by 1/8 inch steel, and I'm going to weld that onto the lid side of the opening here, so that it covers a 1/2 inch onto the lid side and 1 inch over here onto the tank side. And then after I do that, then I will take and I'm going to weld in hinges before I cut the rest of the openings on the lid, because if I take and mount the hinges on first, once I cut the sides and the front, then it will automatically be lined up already. And so we're moving on here. It's going to take a little time. It takes a little time to do this grinding, actually cutting with this angle grinder. But as you can see, I got a pretty decent and straight line. You'll also notice, though, once I cut this, that the gap of the cut has expanded quite a lot because of the tension in the curved steel here, pulling it apart. The tension of the bend is trying to pull the gap apart. So that may be something that I'm going to have to deal with here as I move forward, but we'll see. Okay, hello my YouTube fans. Well, I'm back at work here on my smoker today, and I've gotten a little bit done already. I did quite a bit yesterday, as far as I went to the steel yard and picked up supplies to get started. It may not be enough to finish. In fact, I know it's not going to be enough to finish, but at any rate, so here we go. Let me show you what we've been up to. So as you can see, I have been to the steel yard. Got myself some flat steel, some 11 gauge flat steel here that is primarily going to be used to make my burner box to go here on this side, and also to repair this this cutout here that I had to cut out where it was rusted, as well as up here where the fittings were in the top of the tank for the gauge and the refill and all that kind of stuff. So that's the purpose of some of this. Will be essentially scraps, so to speak, but not really. So got myself some angle iron, some box iron, one piece of C-channel down here, right here. One piece of C-channel that I'll show you what that's going to be used for later. Then over here today, I got a chop saw going and a grinder here, and what I've been making is the beginning of some hinges. They've got a little ways to go yet, but basically you see the 3/8 rod fits inside the box here. And if you take a look at my old Brinkman smoker here, one of my prized possessions, my kids got this for me for Father's Day, probably about 15 years ago, and it served me well, very well. But basically I'm going to make this style of hinge on my smoker that I'm making over here, except as you can see, I'm using box rather than the rounded. And here in just a minute, I'm getting ready to take a oxyacetylene torch and I'm going to bend these over just like this is bent over. And so that's what I'm up to at the moment. And as I move along, I'll show you some more. Well, I've been working on hinges. Being this is my first smoker build, I've learned something new about making hinges as far as this type of hinge that I showed you earlier. And let me get this turned around. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So I got these bent the way I wanted them. The problem you run into though is they don't want to turn very well inside this box right here. And the reason being is because the inside of the radius of the turn is not squared off. So I've been having to try to sit here and grind them down. And so this is one that's finished off. And if you look on the inside of the radius, the inside of the bin, you see how I've squared this off and had to round the bin on the outside to make it flow smoothly through the box there. But once I've gotten them to where I got them ground down, they turn very smoothly through here, as you can see. On the other hand, this one, it wants to bind up in the corners and doesn't want to turn smooth at all. I suppose maybe over time they would loosen up and work, but if that happens, then my doors aren't going to fit snugly. So I don't want that. So the good news is I'm down to the last one. Okay, this is still day 2 of working and cutting on metal, and got my hinges all done for now. Now I'm working on cutting some sheet steel. Been hard at work at it here. As you can see, my 4x8 sheet steel has gotten much smaller. In fact, all I've got left here is one 4x4 sheet. I'm working on cutting these down for my burner box. In case you don't know what that is, a burner box or a burn box, whatever you want to call it. Over here on my old Brinkman, you see the offset burner box over here to the side? That's exactly what's going to go on the end of this tank on this side. So I'm very glad that I invested in a pair or multiple pairs of foam earplugs. This is a very noisy operation with this angle grinder. Another thing that I'm very glad I invested in, that's a diamond blade on there. I tried using the carbide blades, but I made one 24-inch cut with this blade and it's done. It can't do no more. If I was relying all on carbide blades, man, I have to invest in the company. All right, so it's getting dark, or moving towards dark. So I want to get this finished up. I got 2 more pieces to cut out of this, and I'll have another piece similar to this, the long piece leaning up against the tank there, left over. I'm sure it won't go to waste, but it may not be used on this project. We'll see. Well, as you can see, that's really not best done with one hand. And what should have been my last piece here, turns out is not going to be my last piece for the night. Um, God has blessed me with many talents, but sometimes measuring just isn't one of them. And if you look down under here, you'll see a little piece of a sliver of steel. And if you look real close, one end's a whole lot wider than the other one. And by about a half an inch. So guess what's wrong with the big piece that was tied to that? One side's about a half inch too narrow, and it's really kind of ticks me off a little bit because steel's not that cheap. But at the same time, I'm lucky because right over there is another 2-foot wide section that I can remake the piece that I screwed up a minute ago. So it happens. Also, another thing that happens is that somewhere laying around here I have a nice pair of welding gloves that I wasn't wearing a minute ago when I was handling the steel. Oh, there they are, over there by that cooler that's upside down. But a minute ago I wasn't wearing them when I was handling this fresh cut steel, and as you can see, I paid the price for that too. However, I am wearing safety goggles or glasses, and I am wearing earplugs, so at least I'm trying to do something right. It happens, folks. Be careful. Okay, folks, I got all my steel cut, and so what am I doing now? All this steel that I've cut, even the pieces that I don't have immediate use for but have been cut on, I'm going back and I'm deburring the edges with the grinder here. Reason being, that nice little cut I showed you a little bit ago, that's because I was handling this this steel here that, I don't know if you can see this too well, right along that edge, it's nice and raised, and it's very thin, and it'll cut you like a razor blade, just as the experience shows. So I'm going back and I'm trying to make this a little bit user-friendly, more user-friendly anyhow. I'm not saying it can't still cut you, but if I go along with this grinder and knock that down and cut it off, and it sure makes it a whole lot less likely. So I got a few more pieces, 3 exactly, to get knocked out. I've already, all these up underneath here have already been knocked down. Those are the ones that I'm actually using for my burner box or my burn box. These are the 2 ends right here. Those have already been knocked down as well. So this probably be the last of it for the night. As you might be able to tell, it's starting to get dark out here. Sun is setting back here. My chickens have gone to bed for the night, and so I don't have much time left. So this will probably be it for tonight.